Hi, Natasha here. I'm going to read the preface from my upcoming novella Asylum Daughter, which releases summer 2022. Now that you've made it here, it may seem a little off flavour to dedicate a book that contains such triggering themes to anyone, let alone an entire gender. But Life as a Woman merits a content warning. Our experience is often, yes, triggering. We attempt to pacify the monsters, manage their fragile egos for our own safety. For the record, that is not a statement towards all, or indeed only, men. There are many shared experiences among women worldwide that connects us all in great deep fault lines. We are bound together with greater things. Yet the persecutions and shame hammered down from simply being a woman is unavoidable in our societies, both historically and in modern times. Isn't it deplorable in this day and age? Sure, we are sat here in some parts of the world with more rights than we may have ever had, at least more than we've had for many generations. We can choose education, we can vote, we can choose whether to bear a child or not, we can work, we can decide if and who we marry, we can say no. We have choices that sisters before us did not have. Does that make us equal? Should this make us grateful? And is it enough? Right should not be considered a privilege. Those should be standard. And although my comments have come from my pondering on my fellow women and feminism, they are not restricted to just us. It applies to how any group of humans persecute another. And yet women are still so very far from equal in the eyes of many male counterparts, and even some other women who continue to pigeonhole and restrain their sister's freedom to be whatever and whoever she is and wants to be. Now, I love men as much as I love women and as much as I love non-binary persons in humankind, but I cannot close my eyes to how off balance many of us remain, fighting for our voices to be heard, to matter. It's absurd. There's a gender gulf through the human experience. And while some of that is nothing to do with social, political, patriarchal tyranny, some are natural and biological. It cannot be denied there still exists a chasm created by the patriarchal landscape. Every woman has a story, many hidden, unspoken, absorbed into our ever-thickening skin. Patriarchal paradigms have muted women, nullified our voices, dismissed us, cursed, witch, bitch, mad, psycho, silly, stupid, slut-shamed, gender-shamed, body-shamed, period-shamed, victim-shamed, virgin-shamed, blamed, used every tool possible to push her worth, both in society and self, down. Will it ever stop? Who of our daughters will truly be free to just be, without wading through so much intergenerational, societal, political, patriarchal, and even sadly matriarchal sexism? Perhaps I went a little off book with this. I promise you my storytelling is more disciplined, maybe a little bit. We all have our stories, and here in this fiction these characters have theirs. This work converges many influences, some personal, some entirely fictional, all woven together to create a dark, provoking horror tale of the complexities of womanhood, relationships, and perceptions. One I hope conveys vulnerability, strength, and of course, true horror. When I dipped into the recesses of my mind to consider the true origins of this piece and why I had to write it, it became undeniable that I've needed to purge the asylum from my creative cloud for years, perhaps my entire life. She has appeared in the backdrop of several of my shorter works, never the main feature, but ever present, my foreboding Gothic stalker. The asylum has become somewhat sentient in her quiet dominance, slipping in and adding a ripple of something that crawls up the back of the neck and sets that fear centre alight. Irrational or a reflex of primal instinct, I'm not quite sure. I grew up in Glasgow in Scotland, and the primary setting is very much inspired by my childhood home. Yes, even the asylum, with its early morning air raid style wail emanating from the nearby woodland that housed the facility. Its intrigue embedded itself deep into my psyche. In fact, one of the very first short fiction pieces I ever wrote as a child used that base to tell a spooky tale about kids experimenting with a forbidden Ouija board. This piece has been swimming in my subconscious for longer than I realised in various forms, and it wasn't until I finished writing Asylum Daughter in 2022 that this fact dawned. The story takes the reader on the character's journey, spanning through the mid-80s to the noughties. It's a piece shimmering light on the complexities of relationships, family secrets, and the profound impact of protecting image over substance and putting faith in authority. The arrogance of that depletes an individual's sense of security and self-worth and character. Nancy and Bella's stories deal with power abuses through society and a family riddled with patriarchal and religious ideals, which only serve to reduce women to mere utensils or servants of men and God. Humanity and ethics aside, power and authority are a corruptive force throughout this piece, which is as relevant today as it's ever been. Woven through are the complexities of relationships, as I've said, primarily those of mothers and daughters. Ultimately, the fiction and fusion of these elements have birthed a horrifying and provoking story of poetic intrigue, nostalgia, with a sprinkling of the supernatural, or are those delusions and hysteria as a symptom of mental illness? The interpretation ultimately is in the eye of the reader's perspective, which is as unique as that of the writer. So thank you if you took the time to listen. If you pick up a copy of Asylum Daughter, please feel free to share your thoughts. I would certainly love to hear them. And thank you so much, if you do, for taking the time on this indie writer. It fills my little dark heart with joy. Thank you.